Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. December 5th, 2017.
Did Trump engage in obstruction of justice? This is now the latest liberal media deep state talking point. This is now everywhere. CNN's repeating it, MSNBC, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, the Washington Post, obviously the Democratic Party, all the Sunday talk shows, obstruction of justice, obstruction of justice, obstruction of justice. And so the argument is essentially this. Flynn lied to the FBI, one count. Okay, so I've been shown now conclusively how so many others lied to the FBI. They weren't charged. But that's selective justice, but who cares? Flynn lied to the FBI, one count. Not colluding with Russia, which is the underlying crime, allegedly, the reason for Mueller's investigation. Not because he did anything illegal regarding Russia. It's perfectly legal to have talked to the Russian ambassador, to have discussed things with the Russian ambassador. So again, he did nothing illegal, except for whatever reason, and we're going to find out one day, why he lied or gave inconsistent statements to the FBI when they interviewed him several times. So he lied to the FBI. The claim is made by the left that because he lied to the FBI, Trump knew that Flynn lied to the FBI. Hence, by firing Comey, he was trying to prevent Comey and the FBI from possibly prosecuting Flynn for having lied to the FBI. This is exactly the argument now that the Democrats are making. In other words, boom, we've got him on obstruction of justice. Hello, impeachment. Listen now first to Connecticut Senator Dick Blumenthal. Was this on CNN, Brittany? MSNBC, I should have known. Okay, MS Left BC. Here's Connecticut Senator, Ultra Moonbat, Dick Blumenthal. He now smells blood in the water. Roll it, Brittany.
My reaction is that we're at a real testing time for this country when people are going to either speak up and stand up and challenge the President of the United States, or they won't. The White House is a very heady place. Power is a very powerfully addictive drug. And Donald Trump is a very formidable personality, but somebody has to stand up to him. And I hope my Republican colleagues in the United States Senate will take the lead on this issue and also on obstruction of justice. There is a credible case of obstruction of justice against Donald
Trump. Okay, so now, Morning Joe, this is on Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski. They were practically doing the cha-cha. They were practically doing the tango when they found out that Mueller had pled guilty to one count of lying. They're already popping champagne corks. In fact, Joy Behar, I thought, lost her mind on her show, The View. She was like delirious, celebrating. They thought they have now nailed the president, okay? That they're going to drive him from office. So, Dianne Feinstein, I played the clip yesterday, no need to play it again, has the one that's really leading the charge on this, saying Flynn lied to the FBI and Trump apparently, they claim, knew that he lied to the FBI. Even though Trump fired Flynn, it doesn't matter. He knew that he lied to the FBI, and that's why he fired Comey. There's no evidence, but it doesn't matter. He fired Comey to obstruct justice in the possible FBI prosecution of Mike Flynn, even though Mike Flynn has now been found guilty or pled guilty to lying to the FBI. So there was no obstruction of justice. Okay, there was attempted obstruction of justice. You see how they're reaching now? Here is the key point. Even if Trump fired Comey, as the events have now proven, you still could not prevent Michael Flynn from being indicted if the FBI wanted to indict him on lying to the FBI. So even firing Comey could not have prevented Flynn from, in this case, pleading guilty or being indicted for lying to the FBI. Why? Because he had already lied to the FBI. So that argument falls apart, but it gets even worse. Don't even take my word for it. Listen now to famous liberal lawyer Alan Dershowitz make the obvious constitutional point. The FBI director answers to the president. The president is the boss of the FBI director. Article 2 of the Constitution is crystal clear. It's not even debatable. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief. He is the head of the executive branch of government. In other words, he can exercise his constitutional duties at any time and fire anybody in the executive branch anytime he wants to. They serve at the pleasure of the president. So you're going to try to claim obstruction of justice against the President of the United States for doing what he is constitutionally allowed and legally allowed to do, which is to fire an FBI director? It's not just ridiculous. Listen to Dershowitz. It's downright laughable. Roll cut one, Brittany.
I think if Congress were to charge him with obstruction of justice for exercising his constitutional authority under Article 2, we'd have a constitutional crisis. You cannot charge a president with obstruction of justice for exercising his constitutional power to fire Comey and his constitutional authority to tell the Justice Department who to investigate, who not to investigate. That's what Thomas Jefferson did. That's what Lincoln did. That's what Roosevelt did. We have precedents that clearly establish that. When George Bush the first pardoned Caspar Weinberger in order to end the investigation that would have led to him, nobody suggested obstruction of justice. For obstruction of justice by the president, you need clearly illegal acts. With Nixon, hush money paid, telling people to lie, destroying evidence. Even with Clinton, they said that he tried to influence potential witnesses not to tell the truth. But there's never been a case in history where a president has been charged with obstruction of justice for merely exercising his constitutional authority. That would cause a constitutional crisis in the United States, and I hope Mueller doesn't do that, and Senator Feinstein simply doesn't know what she's talking about.
She does. That's the only part I disagree with Dershowitz. She does. She knows that she's lying. They know. They all, listen, look, they know, okay? They know. They're not complete ignoramuses. That's the only part I disagree with Dershowitz. He's a lawyer. He's a trained logician. And so he says, well, you know what you're talking about. No, they know. They know they're lying through their teeth, but it doesn't matter. They want this president to be impeached. They want a stain on this president. They want to drive his numbers into the ground. They want to claim that what is normal political behavior, standard operating procedure, constitutional behavior, is somehow now criminal. Jefferson did it. Actually, Washington did it, but let that go. Jefferson did it. Lincoln did it. Both Roosevelts did it. Everybody did it. Eisenhower, Kennedy, John. It's your constitutional authority. So he is 1,000% correct. The bigger point that he's making, and I think the media now is playing with some real fire, is when he says it would plunge the country into a constitutional crisis. Because he's completely right. Because I'm telling you right now, you think Trump supporters are just going to stand back and allow this president to be removed from office illegally? In a silent coup? Are you kidding me? On clearly trumped up bogus charges? I mean, that's essentially now where they're trying to take this country down. That's why Dershowitz is like ringing the fire bell in the night, telling Mueller and Feinstein, you don't want to go down this road. Look, you don't like Trump. That's fine. They're called midterm elections. You win the House, you win the Senate, you essentially block the president from almost everything. And then you wipe him out in the 2020 presidential election. It's really that simple. If there are real high crimes and misdemeanors, yes, of course, obviously there's grounds for impeachment. But what you don't do is concoct a fantasy, a conspiracy theory, and say, oh, they colluded with the Russians. Where's the evidence? We don't have any, but just trust us. And he worked with Vladimir Putin. And even on this, Dershowitz again made this point. Even if Trump colluded with the Russians, let's just accept everything against him. Okay? Vladimir, how you help me beat Hillary? Please give me some tips. What do I do? What do I do, Vladimir? It's still not a crime. It's disgusting, it's unethical, it's un-American, I get that. But even collusion is not a crime. Because I've got news for you. Foreign governments get involved in our elections every 4 years. Hillary Clinton met with senior government officials. She met with them personally from Ukraine, who gave her opposition research on Trump. Now, I don't see the media saying that Hillary Clinton has to go to jail. That was colluding with the Ukrainians. I mean, I could go on and on and on. So what they're trying to do is absolute hysteria. But listen now to Alan Dershowitz, okay? Because believe me, he's on fire. Roll it, Brittany.
Look, the president could have pardoned Flynn if he were really thinking about trying to end this investigation. He would have pardoned Flynn, and then Flynn wouldn't be cooperating with the other side. And the president would have had the complete authority to do so, and Flynn never would have been indicted, never would have turned as a witness against him. So I think the fact that the president hasn't pardoned Flynn, even though he has the power to do so, is very good evidence that there's no obstruction of justice going on here.
Again, bingo. This is the mother of all points. I said it in my opening monologue, but it bears repeating. Flynn pled guilty. I get it, to one count. I understand that, okay? If Trump really thought, Flynn's going to spill the beans on how Vladimir and I were on the phone every night, blowing each other kisses and having a bromance, and how we were colluding to help me defeat Hillary Clinton, what do you think he would have done? He would have said, hey, Mike, baby, you're pardoned. It doesn't matter if he's been indicted or not indicted. The president can pardon somebody in anticipation of an indictment. That's also fully within the president's constitutional presidential prerogatives. That's not debatable even. So obviously, if Trump felt that Flynn had done something really wrong or immoral, or that he knew had some damaging information on the president, he would have said, hey, Mike, I'll tell you what, forget those lawyer fees, baby. Forget the debt on your house. Forget the fact you're almost bankrupt. I pardon you. Adios. But he didn't. Why? Because there's no collusion. There never was collusion. You know how I know? I'll tell you how I know. Because I've got great sources within the Trump team. And you know what they tell me? They tell me the exact same thing. On Russia collusion, you have no idea how relaxed the president is because there was no collusion. What he is worried about and what's making his blood boil is that Mueller is now on a hunting expedition. And he's now going to bring people around him, maybe even his own family, on technicalities or trumped-up charges, that this is a political witch hunt. And the president has now told Mueller, you go after my personal finances, you go after my family, it means war. And my point to the president has been now for at least 6 months. You need a war consigliere. You need a wartime attorney general, because this is a domestic war. Jeff Sessions is not the man you want to go to war with. Replace him with a bare-knuckled brawler, a fighter, a street fighter, who's not afraid to take the gloves off and get his hands dirty. In other words, bring in the big guns. It's time to bring in Rudy Giuliani. 617-266-6868. Your calls next. Lee in Waltham, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Thank you for taking my call. I'd like to do it in two parts. The first part is Trump should be suing the Justice Department, the State Department, the FBI, and because they're the ones that they're the ones that are obstructing justice. And the reason is this. Judicial Watch that you mentioned at the very beginning, where Charles Farrell has gone on and told them that they have rejected and have delayed all of the things that they're supposed to release to the people as open information. This is information that they're hiding, and they won't release it. And Charles Farrell, he could get on your show and he could give you a better idea than what I'm telling you right now, because he's got the whole thing lined out. But he's gone to the FBI. They won't release information by law they're supposed to. The same thing with the State Department. And by the way, he does say, Charles Farrell says he is taking Sessions to court. Okay? He is going to take him to court, and he's going to get the information out of him. And the last thing I just want to mention to you is one thing, and don't hang up, okay? I mentioned this 2 months ago. Las Vegas. We haven't heard one thing from the FBI about Las Vegas, which was the 57 people that died, one of the biggest atrocities in American history, and yet we don't know anything. And the only thing we heard last was this guy walked into the crime scene, the guy's house, he was dead, and walked out with something that looked like a computer. What have we heard on any of this? So the collusion is with the deep state. That's where the collusion is coming from, and they're making a big push right now. That's all I got to say.
Lee, thank you for that call. Look, I know Tucker Carlson. By the way, I think his show has been on fire the last couple of weeks, okay? But let that go. I know he's going to be doing a special on Las Vegas tonight. I'm going to watch it. I DVR it. I'm definitely going to watch it. I don't know when, but I'm going to watch it. Look, the FBI has now become, again, I'm not talking about the field agents on the ground because they're incredible. I'm talking about the leadership and the management has become so hopelessly corrupt, so hopelessly incompetent, so hopelessly inept. They can't solve anything anymore. You talked about Las Vegas. We know less now than we did 48 hours after the shootings took place. I mean, how does that happen? I've seen investigations stall, but I've never seen investigations go backwards. Like, they're going backwards. They know less today, allegedly, than what they knew when the atrocities took place months ago. So you want to see the damage that Comey did to the FBI, the damage that Andrew McCabe has done to the FBI, the damage that Obama has done to the FBI. It's corrupted from top, I'm talking management now, from the top to the bottom. And that's what happens when you load up the FBI with incompetent, inept political hacks. Comey's a hack. He's a Democratic hack. Andrew McCabe is a Democratic hack. Peter Strzok, the guy at the center of all of this, he's a hack. He's a pro-Hillary hack. So think of this. Stan Rosenberg and Bob DeLeo running the FBI. Think of the hackorama that we have here on Beacon Hill and say, put those guys in charge of the FBI. What do you think is going to happen to the FBI? Answer, look at Las Vegas. Mike in Millbury. Go ahead, Mike.
Jeff, I agree with you 110%, but I think you're missing the boat on Mueller.
Okay.
He met with Trump for allegedly the open FBI position, which is fascinating because he can't take that position. The Hoover Act prevents him from serving another term. Yet he has a 2-hour meeting with Trump and Sessions. After that meeting, he takes down Manafort and Gates, two swamp creatures, Flynn, who's riding dirty with Turkey. He fires or gets rid of or exposes Andrew McCabe, Lisa Page, and Peter Strzok. He's looking into the Deutsche Bank loans, which you're not going to find anything there because that's where Trump refinances all of his golf courses. I want you to consider the distinct possibility, and there's been whispers around the Washington Post, the LA Times, Chicago Tribune, that Mueller, Trump, and Sessions are actually working together. They are cleaning up the FBI. They've just done it. Why is all this coming out? They're behind the scenes cleaning up the FBI and going after the swamp. And if in the next few weeks we hear about Podesta, Fusion GPS, and McCabe, you'll know that's what they're doing. But I think they're keeping everything on the lowdown right now. They've got the media whipped up in a panic. They're looking at the shiny ball. but they might be over here. The three of those guys might be over here playing a little 3D chess, and I just want you to consider that.
Mike, I hope you're right. Don't get me wrong. I really want you to be right and me to be wrong. But let me ask you something, Mike. Financially, do you do okay?
Yeah.
Could you afford a steak dinner?
Sure.
At the Hanover Street Chop House? Would that break your bank or something? Because I'll make you a bet if you want. I'd love a good steak, Mike. I'll bet you the best steak at the Hanover Street Chop House.
How about this?
Mueller is never going to go after the Podestas. He's never, in other words, that Mueller's going to be revealed as another FBI hack.
No, I honestly, if you play this out, none of this has hurt Trump. All the revelations we're hearing actually hurt the FBI.
I agree with you.
State in Hillary.
I agree with you.
It's the media. The media is just trying to put perfume or lipstick on.
No, I agree with you. I just don't think Mueller's in on it. What I'm trying to say is, if you want, we could bet a steak dinner on it. But, Mike, honestly, I think I'm going to win that steak dinner.
You might.
Thank you for that call, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Take care, buddy. 617-266-6868. Okay. It's not just now the permanent bureaucracy that's out to get him, the permanent judiciary as well. But Trump wins big at the Supreme Court on his travel ban. We're going to have that next. But first, stay with us. Evan Heidenrich has the president's prediction for next week's Senate election in Alabama. What did the president predict? Evan. 1:35 here on the great WRKO. Okay, coming up later, Gronkowski. I know I don't normally talk football. I don't even watch football. But what they are doing to that man is an absolute shame and disgrace. And I've got a very interesting take on it that nobody else in the Boston media has the guts to say, so I'm going to say it. So at 2:05, we're going to discuss that. Also, big news, John Conyers, he's now stepping down. Well, sorry, he's retiring as of today, and he wants his son to replace him after the latest sexual assault allegations. We've got all of that, so much more. By the way, the piranha Nancy Pelosi completely melts down over the tax cuts. You got to hear this one to believe it. It's really, I don't know what you can say after what she said. How the Democrats can go more extreme after that is beyond me. But first, Trump finally wins big at the Supreme Court. So, as you know, speaking of the permanent bureaucracy, the deep state, the FBI, the Justice Department, as they've been trying to drive him from office and prevent him from exercising his constitutional powers as President of the United States. So whether it's dirty cops like James Comey or dirty CIA agents or NSA agents, we also have dirty judges, liberal leftist judges who have done everything in their power to paralyze and cripple the executive powers of President Trump. And one of them, which is, again, clearly delineated in the Constitution, there can be no debating about this, but with the liberals, there always is, which is that the president has the right to prevent anybody, any foreigner, from coming into this country. If he wanted to ban Jeff Kuhner, he could have banned Jeff Kuhner. I'm not kidding. If he wanted to ban me as a Canadian, an entire class of Canadians, an entire class of Mexicans, an entire class of Russians, because he believed whatever were a threat to the hockey industry in the United States. If he wanted to ban us and say, nah, you know what, you're taking jobs away from American hockey players or from American talk show hosts. Too many freaking Canadian talk show hosts like Jeff Kuhner think they can come down into America and steal the jobs of Americans. No more Canadian talk show hosts will be allowed to come into America. Period. Full stop. That is president's prerogative. It is clearly delineated as his powers as the head of the executive branch and as the president of the United States. So, as you know, 2 times now, he has put together a travel ban. In fact, now it's the 3rd time that has been shot down by the lower courts. This latest travel ban bans travel and immigration from 8 countries. 6 of them are Muslim majority countries. 2 of them have nothing to do with Islam, Venezuela and North Korea. So, Chad, Iran, Libya, North Korea, as I said, Syria, Venezuela, and Yemen. Yemen is full of radical Islamic terrorists. Syria, I don't need to tell you, ISIS now crushed and smashed, but still many fighters remain rampant across Syria. Iran is the greatest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Libya was shattered by Hillary and Obama. It is now an Islamist state where, listen to this, by the way, they now openly have slavery, slave trade, and the slave auction. Slavery is alive and well in Libya after the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi. But you won't see the liberal media talk about that, but let that go. Chad, overrun with Islamic terrorism. Venezuela, you obviously have the Maduro regime. It's a radical anti-American regime. And of course, you have the Rocket Man in North Korea. So you have 8 countries, 2 of whom have nothing to do with Islam, 6 of whom tend to be Muslim majority. But the bigger problem is they are terrorist states, or states that have large numbers of terrorists. And because you can't properly vet them, because they don't have a proper data system in place, you know, people can forge documents, they can get forged documents or forged passports. There's nothing to cross-reference with to err on the side of security. The president said, nah, from any of those 8 countries, I'm sorry, you cannot come into the United States. The most populous Muslim nations in the world, whether it be Indonesia, Pakistan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, are not on the list. So how this could be a so-called Muslim ban is beyond me. Again, you have to be a moonbat to think like this, okay? The Supreme Court stayed the lower court injunctions. The one out of Hawaii and the Fourth Circuit. So the 2 liberal judges who prevented Trump from being able to enact his ban, the Supreme Court looked at it and on its face immediately said, whoa, 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 whoa. No, nobody elected you president of the United States. The president has the right to have his ban until we hear the merits of the case. So in a 7-2 decision, the Supreme Court has now ruled that the travel ban now must be implemented immediately until there is a final decision by the Supreme Court on the merits of the case. And I'm telling you that Trump is going to win on the merits of the case. Now, what is to me interesting here is notice how the liberal justices or liberal judges, the liberal judiciary, the permanent judiciary, and the permanent bureaucracy are now essentially colluding to weaken the powers of the 2 elected branches of government. They want to weaken the power of Congress, and they want to weaken the power of the president, especially if the president is a Republican. And so had this been a Democratic president, the judges would have never prevented any ban that he wanted, okay? A ban on conservatives, a ban on capitalists, a ban on people promoting people opposed to global warming or climate change. Whatever they wanted. A refugee program that benefited only Muslims and not Christians, a la Obama, when he had his refugee policy. Notice, they didn't shoot down Obama's travel executive orders. No. Then it was all the power was in the presidency, and the Constitution said, hey, he can pick and choose if he wants Muslims or if he wants Christians. So what you're seeing now is a fundamental assault on popular democracy itself, on self-government and representative government. Because what the judges are essentially saying is Trump doesn't run immigration policy. Trump doesn't run foreign policy. We do. Some unelected judge decides what is best for the United States. Forget the will of the people. Forget their elected representatives. They know more. They know better. They're doing, by the way, the same thing as I said regarding trying to impeach Trump. They know better. You guys made a mistake in November. You had no business electing him. And you know what? We know better than you, and we're going to drive him from office. It's exactly what you see in Europe now with the European Union, whereby civil servants in the European Union, again, the permanent bureaucracy, think they know better than the people of the 28 nations of the EU. And to me, this is the grave internal threat that we face, is that increasingly now our elites are turning against the people and turning against democracy or representative government itself. It is the revolt of the elites. And you're seeing it now with these judges, these crooked judges, who now want to paralyze and cripple this president and make it impossible for him to enact his constitutional authorities. He has the right to keep the nation safe. That's his job. He has the right to control our borders. That's his job. He has the right to decide what foreign alien can come into our country or what class of foreign aliens can come into our country based on the national security of the United States. And so what these judges are essentially trying to do is they are now trying to undercut the president and destroy his effective ability to be president of the United States. So what they really are trying to say is this: don't bother voting for a Republican. Because if you vote for a Republican Congress or a Republican president, we're going to essentially put them on ice for 4 years. We're going to neuter them and strip them of all of their constitutional legal powers, and we're just going to have unelected bureaucrats and unelected judges run our country. It is, in a nutshell, liberal fascism. These are liberal fascists in black robes. It is judicial supremacy that the third unelected branch arrogates to itself powers from the executive branch and the legislative branch and actually says we're superior to the other two branches. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled 7-2. I think when this thing finally goes on its merits, Trump is going to win and win big. But more importantly, this travel ban is necessary. In fact, I will be very honest with you. I think we need a Muslim ban. I don't think this ban goes far enough. It's a good first step. I agree with it. But I have no problem with the President of the United States saying we need a moratorium on all Muslim migration into the country until we can root out all of the radical mosques, all of the ISIS and other Islamic terrorist cells in America, unless we can start to attack the fifth column from within and expose it. We should not potentially open up the United States to even more Islamist migration and Islamist terrorism. If the Europeans want to commit suicide, that's their business. If the Canadians want to commit suicide, that's their business. But the United States, last time I checked, the Constitution is not a suicide pact. 617-266-6868. Richie in Weymouth. Go ahead, Richie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Richie?
Good. Well, these judges, I, as a layman, knew that what they were doing was illegal and unconstitutional. Why are these judges not being removed by Congress and with all loss of all benefits? In other words, their pensions, whatever they have coming. That's what I want to know.
You're completely right. I mean, Richie, you're completely right. Look, in the end, There was somebody I read. It was a brilliant article that I read. Anyway, I can't remember the source. It may have been in the American Conservative. It may have even been from Ron Paul or maybe Rand Paul. But anyway, it was one of the Pauls who made, I think, the brilliant argument that the judiciary has been usurping the powers of the legislative branch of Congress and of the executive branch. And Congress could immediately say enough is enough. All Congress has to do is tell the judiciary, no, you're exceeding your authority, you're usurping your authority, and what you just did is illegal. We're not going to allow you to do this. We're going to overrule you, and we're going to get rid of these judges. In other words, these judges can be impeached. Yes, many of them have lifetime tenures. Yes, but you can't abuse your power. If you abuse your power, there's grounds for removal and for impeachment. And so in the end, if you want to know the cure for judicial overreach, yes, you want to appoint conservative judges. Yes, you want to have a conservative Supreme Court. But I got to tell you, there's a magic bullet. There's a silver bullet. Tell Congress, it's your job. You protect the separation of powers. Protect your turf. And when the judiciary overreaches, you tell them, I'm sorry, who elected you? Of all the three branches of government, the one that should be the weakest is the judiciary branch. Not the strongest. Why? Because it's the one most removed from the people. The one that is completely unaccountable to the people. So what I would just say is, if I'm Congress, no, you can't do this. No. No, you don't have that power. No. And you take it back. And you remove the judges. Say, I'm sorry, you're a rogue judge. You are not following law. You're usurping the law. You're abusing your power. You got to go. But that would take a Congress and leaders of the Congress with what the Spanish call cojones. And that's the one thing they don't have. Jerry on the Cape. Go ahead, Jerry. Comrade, how are you, my friend?
I have a message for you from Dimitri. Rosatom makes good scooters, no? Jeff, I believe that the 4th and 9th circuits need to be replaced. They need to clean house in those two particularly. And we can't have ideologues on either side of the aisle. We can't have hard righters or hard... You can't go with your ideology. You have to go by the letter of the law. But, Jeff, as you know, I love you in a non-gender specific way. And I have to disagree with you about Comey.
Go ahead.
Because the real criminal here, the head criminal, is Robert Mueller, the capo di tutti capo, the godfather of Comey and McCabe and all of those guys, Rosenstein. He's been involved with those people for 20 years or so. But, Jeff, just let me lay it out for you. What about the falsification of Iraqi war intelligence in 2003? He not only testified before Congress and went along with it, he failed to investigate it, and he failed to go after anybody. He was actively participating in that ruse. What about the $12 billion that went missing in 2003, the vanishing currency in Iraq, in the war combat theater, unaccounted for? What about from 2001 to 2013, right when he left, which took place up until the time he left office? What about the NSA wireless warrants? What about Emailgate in 2007, Jeff, when the Bush administration violated the Presidential Records Act? What about the Walter Reed neglect scandal at Walter Reed Hospital? Substandard, people died because of it. What about the IRS targeting? What about Fast and Furious? What about the Associated Press spying? What about the Clinton Foundation pay for play? What about Uranium One, where on September 21st of 2009, he delivered 10 grams of highly enriched uranium to the FSB in Russia?
Bingo, bingo, bingo. Josh in Framingham, you're up next. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Jeff, it's one thing to say you want to block people from certain countries, but when you bring up religions and stuff, that's different. And on top of that, you started talking about going after Muslims that are here in America.
So what, you don't think that we should have freedom of religion in America?
Well, no, what I said was go after the radicalized mosques. I mean, do you want imams and preachers to be calling for jihad and the beheadings of Americans here on American soil?
It sounds like the way you said it, that maybe we should make these people put on badges or something.
I never said that. You said that. I never said that. You said that. But let me ask you this.
It's pretty close to what you said, Jeff.
No, it's not what I said. It's not even close to what I said.
One step away.
Right. Okay, listen, let me ask you this.
Garbage.
Okay. Could this country ban Nazis? Did we not do that during World War II?
I don't think we can ban.
No, we did. Whether we can or can't is what you think in your.
We locked up Nazis. There was Nazis in America during World War II.
We banned Nazis from coming into this country.
Do you think it was okay to put the Japanese in internment camps?
Yes.
Do you think that was good?
No, it was horrible. It was one that I didn't do it. FDR did it. A liberal Democrat did it. That's my point.
But that's what you're getting close to.
No, that's not what I'm getting into. No, I never mentioned internment camps. Listen, look. Listen, look.
You know what you said.
I know. Just turn him down for a second. After World War II, Eastern Europeans, because of the Stalin's invasion of Eastern Europe, were prevented from coming into the United States. An entire class and category, all Eastern Europeans, all of them. Every Slav was prevented from coming. Why? Because they feared communist infiltration. You know who was one of them? My grandfather, who spent 3 years in a communist concentration camp, but let that go. So my question to you is this. For 40 years, they banned immigration from Ireland, from Italy, from Southern and Eastern Europe. During World War II, look it up, it's in a history book, they banned all Nazis from coming into the United States. They banned all suspected communists from coming into the United States, and they banned entire groups of people, including my ancestors, from coming into the United States. So let me get this straight. My grandfather could be given the shaft. The Irish and the Italians and the Slavs could be given the shaft. But all of a sudden now we need special pleading for Muslims? And you're trying to compare me? Hold on, buddy. Hold on. My grandfather spent 1.5 years in a Nazi camp. They wiped out half my family. So don't call up my show and start telling me I want to put badges or the Stars of David on people's arms.
And then you move to religions. Isn't that correct?
It's an ideology. And dangerous ideologies.
It's a religion.
Dangerous ideologies. No.
Religion you want.
You call it a religion. It's a cult. If you know anything about the history of Islam, you will see it's very different from Christianity and Judaism.
I remember when I asked you about killing all the Muslims and genocide, and you brought, what about the Moors? What the hell was that? What the hell kind of answer was that, Jeff?
Hold on. Are you going to deny that Muslims... Are you going to deny that...
The Moors, you say no. You say no. That's what you say.
No, I'll tell you what you say. No, what you say is this, that Islam has a history of violence and conquest against the Christian West. You don't want to admit it because you're a moonbat. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Your crack pipe. Coming up next, speaking of the moonbats, they're now turning on Rob Gronkowski. What the hell did Rob Gronkowski do to now deserve becoming public enemy number one? I've got that story, so much more.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 2 o'clock.